6:54 a.m. local time. The Caribbean is unusually still. Veteran sailors notice it immediately. The sea surface is glassy, broken only by the long, slow swells rolling in from the east. Wind is minimal. Visibility stretches cleanly past the horizon. Conditions like this remove uncertainty. Nothing hides. Nothing surprises. Which is exactly why tension rises the moment something appears where it shouldn't. Inside the Combat Information Center aboard USS George Washington, the morning watch is routine. Displays glow softly. Contacts drift across radar scopes in predictable arcs. Commercial traffic follows shipping lanes. Fishing vessels move erratically, but slowly. Everything behaves as expected. Until it doesn't. A radar technician stiffens. Multiple surface contacts, bearing 215. The words cut through the quiet without urgency, which makes them more dangerous. Another pause follows as the system refines the returns. 5 contacts, appearing simultaneously. Not staggered, not random, not civilian. Range, 22 nautical miles. Speed, steady. Course, converging. On the main tactical display, 5 radar signatures tighten into a formation that immediately stands out from background traffic. Their movement is coordinated, disciplined, intentional. The track lines intersect the carrier's planned route at a shallow but unmistakable angle. No one laughs. No one asks for clarification. Ships don't move like that by accident. On the bridge, the captain of USS George Washington studies the updated plot. He doesn't change posture. He doesn't speak immediately. The carrier continues forward at constant speed. Over 100,000 tons of steel holding its line through calm water. In naval operations, the first reaction matters more than the loudest one. Automated classification begins running in parallel. Radar cross-section, hull proportions, superstructure geometry, electronic signatures. The system doesn't take long. The answer resolves cleanly. Venezuelan Navy. 5 surface combatants. Mixed formation. Range closes to 17 nautical miles. The surface warfare officer delivers the update evenly, without inflection. Formation suggests intentional intercept, not shadowing. That distinction matters. Shadowing observes. Intercepting restricts. This is not a parallel escort meant to monitor from a distance. The geometry indicates a blocking posture. One designed to cross the carrier's bow, compress maneuvering room, and force acknowledgement without triggering weapons release. It's a move meant to communicate intent while staying just short of escalation. USS George Washington initiates standard protocol. The first hail goes out over international bridge-to-bridge frequencies. Unidentified Venezuelan naval vessels. This is a United States Navy warship operating in international waters. State your intentions. The transmission is clear, professional, recorded. There is no response, no static, no distortion, no acknowledgement. Silence. Range, 13 nautical miles. Across the strike group, electronic support measures begin to light up. Venezuelan surface search radars are now active. Emissions spike across multiple frequencies. Every pulse is detected, analyzed, categorized. Power levels, sweep intervals, modulation patterns. Each one is time-stamped and stored. Inside the CIC, tension doesn't rise emotionally. It sharpens operationally. This is the scenario crews train for repeatedly. Encounters where nothing explodes, but everything matters. A junior officer breaks the stillness. Recommend minor course adjustment to increase lateral separation. The response is immediate. Negative. Maintain heading. The carrier holds course, not out of stubbornness, out of doctrine. International law supports it. Rules of engagement support it. And tactically, altering course now would signal uncertainty, a concession without necessity. Changing course early doesn't reduce risk. It reframes the encounter. At 10 nautical miles, the contacts resolve visually through long-range optics. Gray hulls, low profiles, aging platforms, but operated with discipline. These ships are not wandering, they are executing. Still, no weapons are manned, no alarms sound, no flight activity moves topside. Above the water, everything appears calm. Below it, every system is awake. USS George Washington doesn't respond with motion. It responds with awareness. Every bearing change is logged. Every radar sweep is catalogued. Every moment of silence is preserved. The carrier doesn't need to maneuver to assert control. Presence already does that. Quietly, an internal directive passes through the command spaces. Shift to enhanced monitoring. Log all activity. From that moment forward, the encounter stops being routine. It becomes a record. And records at sea don't fade. They travel. The blocking maneuver tightens. The distance closes with mechanical certainty. 9 nautical miles becomes 8. 8 becomes 7. The Venezuelan formation tightens almost imperceptibly, each ship adjusting its heading by degrees, not turns. No sudden movements, no aggressive acceleration. This is controlled navigation, executed by crews who understand how close is too close, and how close is just close enough. Inside the Combat Information Center aboard USS George Washington, the tactical plot updates continuously. 5 surface contacts now bracket the carrier's projected path with growing precision. 2 vessels slide slightly forward of the formation. 3 hold offset positions, widening laterally. It is not random spacing, it is geometry. From a distance, it looks unremarkable. 5 gray hulls moving across open blue water. But at sea, geometry defines intent, and the intent here is unmistakable. This is a blocking pattern, not an escort, not a shadow, a denial of space. At 6 nautical miles, the second hail is transmitted. Venezuelan naval vessels, you are approaching a United States Navy carrier operating in international waters. Maintain safe distance and alter course immediately. The tone is firm, unemotional, recorded. Again, there is no reply. What does change is speed. 2 of the Venezuelan ships advance their throttles, increasing by several knots. The maneuver compresses the formation and sharpens the intercept angle. Their bows now angle slightly across the carrier's starboard side, reducing available sea room without crossing into overt danger. This is a known tactic. Apply pressure without touching. Force acknowledgement without firing. On the bridge of USS George Washington, the watch team remains motionless. Helm orders do not change. The carrier's wake remains straight and unbroken, stretching white behind the stern. The logic is simple. The ship with superior awareness does not yield space unless required. Below decks, the strike group is fully synchronized. Destroyers and cruisers operating in support feed sensor data into a shared operational picture. Radar, passive detection, electronic warfare, all layered, all overlapping. There are no blind spots. Electronic warfare teams quietly annotate Venezuelan radar behavior. Sweep rates increase. Pulse repetition tightens. Power modulation shifts. This is no longer passive navigation. The Venezuelan ships are actively building a surface picture, and every second they transmit, they expose themselves. Inside the CIC, a quiet exchange takes place. closest point of approach projected under 1 nautical mile if current course is maintained. That number lands heavily. Under 1 nautical mile is close enough to make headlines, close enough to provoke speculation, close enough for a single misjudgment to dominate the narrative. Still, no alarms sound, no weapons are trained, no aircraft are launched, no visible posture changes. At 5 nautical miles, visual clarity improves. Deck crews can be seen moving on the Venezuelan ships. Helmets, figures near forward sections. Activity without haste, but not casual. This is not confusion. It is intent. The political calculation is obvious. A direct confrontation with a U.S. carrier would be reckless. But friction has value. Forcing the encounter into public view. Creating an incident without crossing a red line. Testing restraint. For the U.S. Navy, the calculation runs differently. Every unnecessary maneuver risks escalation. Every dramatic response invites misinterpretation. Control is maintained not by dominance displays, but by discipline. At 4 nautical miles, 1 Venezuelan vessel edges ahead of the others, slowly, deliberately. Its bow begins to slide across the carrier's projected path. It is attempting to cross the bow. Inside the CIC, the update is delivered without urgency. Contact altering course, intent consistent with bow crossing. The response is immediate and calm. Roger. Continue to monitor. No raised voices. No sharp corrections. Urgency in moments like this spreads quickly. Calm contains it. Above deck, the sea remains unchanged. To an outside observer, this looks like routine maritime traffic. Ships passing, water flowing. Nothing dramatic. But beneath that calm, every second is being captured. Bearings, headings, speed changes, radio silence. The Venezuelan ships continue to press. The U.S. Navy continues to refuse reaction. And that imbalance, pressure applied to silence, begins to define the encounter. Because at sea, the side that forces movement is not always the side in control. Often, control belongs to the side that refuses to move at all. The U.S. Navy does not blink. As the distance continues to narrow, the most striking element aboard USS George Washington is what never happens. No alarms echo through passageways. No abrupt helm commands are issued. No sharp course corrections break the rhythm. The carrier moves forward exactly as before, her bow cutting cleanly through calm Caribbean water, engines holding a constant, unremarkable cadence. To anyone unfamiliar with naval operations, it could look passive, even vulnerable. To professionals, it is neither. Inside the Combat Information Center, the operational picture is complete. Every Venezuelan vessel is tracked with precision. Bearing, speed, rate of turn, sensor activity. Nothing is inferred. Everything is confirmed. The strike group's awareness extends far beyond what the Venezuelan crews can see. Satellite feeds, passive sensors, distributed systems operating without announcing themselves. Information flows inward quietly, creating a layered picture of the battle space that leaves nothing ambiguous. This is how the U.S. Navy prefers to operate, quietly, deliberately, without emotional signaling. A report passes across the CIC consoles. Air picture clean. No fast movers detected. No rotary wing launch. That absence matters. It signals restraint. Venezuela is applying pressure, but carefully. Close enough to provoke, not close enough to justify escalation. The line is being tested, not crossed. On the flight deck, nothing changes. Aircraft remain secured below. Deck crews continue routine movement. No visible preparations. Nothing staged for effect. But below deck, readiness has shifted. The carrier's escorts, destroyers and cruisers operating in support, are fully synchronized. Their sensors feed into the same operational picture, creating overlapping coverage that surrounds the Venezuelan formation from multiple angles. Every ship sees the same thing at the same time. There are no blind spots. Electronic warfare teams quietly catalog every Venezuelan radar emission, pulse repetition frequencies, sweep intervals, power fluctuations. What Venezuela believes is pressure is, in reality, exposure. Every transmission gives away information. Every adjustment reveals behavior. On the bridge, the captain listens as updates continue to flow. CPA refined, margin tight, but increasing if courses remain steady. No order is given to maneuver. In U.S. naval doctrine, movement is communication, and communication is chosen carefully. A junior watch officer notes the obvious. No change in their posture, still holding intercept geometry. The response is brief. Understood. Continue logging. The Venezuelan ships are now inside 3 nautical miles, close enough for unaided visual identification, close enough for misjudgment to carry consequences. Still, the carrier does not deviate. This is not stubbornness. It is clarity. By holding a steady course, USS George Washington removes ambiguity entirely. From this point forward, any unsafe maneuver belongs to the opposing force. Responsibility becomes unarguable, recorded, verifiable. Above the waterline, the encounter remains visually unremarkable. 5 ships, 1 carrier, open sea. Below it, systems operate in layers, defensive, analytical, preparatory. Not because a fight is expected, but because readiness is never optional. The Navy does not escalate in order to prepare. It prepares, so escalation is unnecessary. A quiet confirmation arrives inside the CIC. External ISR platforms available on short notice. No further details are spoken aloud. None are needed. Options exist, and options are power. Across the water, the Venezuelan formation hesitates. Not enough to be called a retreat, but enough to register. Speeds fluctuate slightly. Courses refine again, as if searching for a response that never comes. They are pressing against silence. At sea, silence can be disorienting. It offers no feedback, no emotional signal, no confirmation of impact. It forces the other side to move next, without knowing how that move will be received. The U.S. Navy understands this better than most. The carrier continues forward. The wake remains unchanged. The bow does not waver. Every radar sweep, every course adjustment, every second of this encounter is preserved. Not for headlines, not for threats, for the record. And within that record, one truth becomes increasingly difficult to ignore. The side applying pressure is not the side setting the terms. The side that remains steady is. Then this happened in plain sight. The shift does not arrive with noise. There is no alarm, no raised voice, no abrupt maneuver. From the outside, nothing appears to change. The carrier holds course. The sea remains calm. The Venezuelan ships maintain their positions, still pressing, still measured. But inside the strike group, a decision is made. Not to escalate, not to threaten, to clarify. In the Combat Information Center aboard USS George Washington, the order is delivered quietly, almost casually. Authorize airborne presence. No urgency accompanies the words, no emphasis, just intent. Minutes later, the stillness on the flight deck breaks, not with chaos, but with precision. Deck crews move into position with practiced efficiency. An MH-60R Seahawk is brought topside. Tie-downs are released. Rotor blades begin to turn, slow at first, then faster. The sound is controlled, steady, unmistakable. This is not a scramble. It is not a reaction. It is a message. The helicopter lifts cleanly from the deck, rising just enough to clear the carrier's superstructure before banking outward. It does not accelerate aggressively. It does not race ahead of the formation. It moves deliberately, holding a stable altitude as it heads toward the Venezuelan ships. Inside the aircraft, sensors come online. Forward-looking infrared, high-resolution optics, laser designation, all systems synchronized. All feeds live. From the Venezuelan ships, the helicopter is immediately visible. A U.S. Navy aircraft, low and steady, approaching from the carrier's starboard side. No weapons displayed, no aggressive posture, just presence. At 2 nautical miles, the Seahawk levels off. It does not buzz decks. It does not cross bows. It holds position, offset just enough to remain unmistakable and safe. Then a narrow green beam flickers briefly. Controlled. Deliberate. The laser settles momentarily on the bridge of the lead Venezuelan vessel. Not a threat. A marker. You are seen. The broadcast follows immediately, calm and precise. Venezuelan naval vessel, this is a United States Navy aircraft. You are conducting unsafe maneuvers in international waters. Your actions are being recorded. Alter course, immediately. The message is repeated, clearly, in Spanish. For the first time since initial contact, something changes. On the bridge of the lead Venezuelan ship, movement becomes visible. Figures step forward. Binoculars are raised. The ship's bow wake shortens. Speed reduces. 1 knot, then another. Across the formation, the effect ripples outward. One ship eases slightly off its intercept line. Another adjusts heading just enough to widen separation. No dramatic turn, no sudden retreat. But the geometry shifts. Inside the CIC, updates flow in steadily. Lead contact reducing speed. Formation cohesion degrading. CPA increasing. The Seahawk holds position, maintaining a steady orbit. Sensors remain locked. Imagery streams in with clarity. Hull numbers, deck layouts, crew positions. Everything is captured, time-stamped, archived. This is not intimidation. It is documentation made visible. After a final wide pass, slow, deliberate, unmistakable, the helicopter banks away and climbs, returning toward the carrier. Its departure is as measured as its arrival. Behind it, the Venezuelan ships no longer press. Their bows no longer aim to cross. Their formation loosens. Pressure bleeds off in increments. Back aboard USS George Washington, there is no reaction to the shift. No commentary. No acknowledgement. The carrier never changed course. Never increased speed. Never signaled outwardly that anything had altered. Because the objective was never to force a retreat. It was to set a boundary. No weapons were used. No collision occurred. No escalation was required. Only a clear demonstration that the situation was understood, recorded, and controlled. As the Seahawk touches down on the flight deck, rotors slowing once more, the Venezuelan formation continues to drift away. Still present, still visible, but no longer blocking anything. The moment passes as quietly as it arrived. And from that point forward, the encounter is no longer contested. It has been decided. Why the encounter ended without a shot? When the distance begins to open, it does so without announcement. There is no sharp turn away, no sudden break in contact, no visible admission of retreat. Instead, separation increases gradually. Half a nautical mile, then another. Courses diverge just enough to relieve pressure without creating spectacle. It is a controlled disengagement, deliberate, quiet, and telling. Inside the Combat Information Center aboard USS George Washington, the tactical plot confirms what everyone already understands. The encounter has shifted. What was once confrontation is now observation. Closest points of approach widen. Intercept geometry dissolves. The risk of collision drops below significance. The carrier maintains course because there is no longer any reason not to. The Seahawk is secured on deck. Sensors are powered down, but the data remains. Every radar emission, every maneuver, every pause, every hesitation. Nothing is summarized. Nothing is editorialized. Everything is preserved. This is how the U.S. Navy ends encounters, not by declaring victory, but by completing the record. No shots fired, no warning flares, no aggressive broadcasts beyond a single measured transmission from a helicopter. But naval outcomes are not measured in explosions. They are measured in control of space, control of narrative, control of risk. On that scale, the result is unambiguous. Venezuela applied pressure to force a reaction. The United States applied discipline to remove ambiguity. For a brief moment, the Venezuelan ships achieved visibility. What they gave in return was far more valuable. Their operating patterns, their command behavior, their tolerance for escalation, their response to restrained force. They revealed where pressure ends and restraint begins. For the U.S. Navy, that information matters more than any headline. As the range opens beyond 5 nautical miles, the Venezuelan formation stabilizes on a parallel course. Still present, still monitored, but no longer relevant to the carrier's movement. No further hails are exchanged. None are needed. The carrier strike group continues along its planned route. Flight schedules remain unchanged. Escorts maintain standard posture. Operations proceed as if uninterrupted. The sea returns to the same quiet rhythm it held before the first radar contact appeared. But encounters do not end when ships separate. They end when analysis begins. Later, far from the Caribbean, the data will be reviewed, patterns compared, assumptions tested, future encounters shaped by what was learned here. That process is constant, deliberate, invisible. This is the reality of modern naval power. Strength is not proven by who fires first. It is proven by who never needs to. USS George Washington did not maneuver to assert dominance. It did not escalate to establish credibility. It held course, applied presence, and allowed professionalism to do the work. The Venezuelan ships challenged a carrier strike group and discovered something fundamental. They were never confronting a ship. They were confronting a system, one designed to observe, decide, and control without urgency. As the final range markers tick upward and the contacts fade from immediate concern, watch rotations change. Logs are signed. The carrier continues forward, indistinguishable from any other day at sea. That is not coincidence. That is doctrine. Because when an encounter ends quietly, without force, without concession, and without uncertainty, it means the balance of control was never in doubt. And out here, in international waters, that is the only outcome that matters.